Hey guys, and welcome to yet another video of Dreaming Beyond Infinity. In this video I will share my life story with you in English, as you might have noticed. I got many requests after my first video to upload a video in all English, so I'm trying this out now. So I'm a bit nervous, so I'm sorry for some mistakes and that kind of stuff. And I actually do have lack of speech, both in English and Dutch. So if I'm tripping over some words or sentences, I'm so sorry, or I have a weird pronunciation. I'm so sorry as well. English isn't my first language, Dutch is. Um, so sorry for that in advance. If you don't understand me, please let me know in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I can to clarify what I said. Um, Before I start, I have another warning. I'm living at a very busy road, so there might be some background noise. It's a very windy day today, so you can hear the wind blowing around the house and some cars rushing by and the public transportation. So I'm sorry for the noise in the background. Um, and I finally have a trigger warning for you guys. As I said before, I'm sharing my life story with you. This can be quite upsetting, this story. I went through a lot in the last 23 years so all my life. And I'm sharing this with you not to make you feel sorry for me or feel bad about yourself or feel sorry for me or anything like that. No, I am sharing this to inspire you and motivate you and show you that things can get better and live your life how you want to do it. And especially for the people who are going through something right now, it can be anything. Um, Things will get better, and I hope to teach you that with this story and all the upcoming stories I will share with you in the upcoming weeks, months. I don't know how long I will do this. Um, so you know that in advance, so this story can be quite heavy. Um, I guess it's time to start my actual life story and share it with you. In this video, I will start with my school life and I will end with my personal life and the point I am right now. So I'll start with elementary school, but before I start with elementary school, I will just start a little bit about my birth because it's a bit special, I guess. I was born in Voorburg, the Netherlands, on Friday, September 13th, 1996. You can already hear it maybe. I was born on Friday 13th. Not the best day to start a day. Not the best day and not the best day to start a life. This turned out to be true actually. If I had any influence on it, I would have chosen another day. I don't believe in that kind of stuff, but you know, it sounds weird to be born on Friday 13th. Um, let's start at elementary school, as I said before. I'm a huge introvert. I'm an INFJ for the people who are interested. You can read on my blog what it means and I will make another video about it. But it's meant for me in elementary school that I had to adjust myself when the teacher gave us an exercise to execute, like drawing a house or building something with Lego or you name it. I just needed some time to walk around in the class and see what my classmates were doing, just to make sure I was planning to do the right thing, because I was really afraid to get people angry with me or to be laughed at by my classmates or even my teacher. Later in this video, I explain uh, where this feeling was coming from. But I had to wait to start my extras. I had to walk around and see what I had to do. Because of this, I noticed pretty soon that I didn't fit in, of course, in my class because I was doing weird stuff. I was walking around, I wasn't doing the exercises in the beginning. And it took me some longer time to understand things and be actual social to people. So I went to the background really fast at the age of 3.5, 4, I guess. But it was fine for me actually because I had everything with me I needed. I had this cuddly toy, a duck it was, and ducks are my favorite animals. I really like those animals. So I guess it was one of my neighbors who made this cuddly toy for me, and I took it everywhere. I will show it in the next video or maybe on a photo right here if I can find a photo. If not, I'm sorry. Um, but this stuffed animal, I called it Duck or Ducky, and together with him, I knew nothing would happen to me. I would be safe because Ducky gave me such a sense of security in my life, which I really needed at home, but at school as well. At a later point, um, I took my Ducky with me everywhere, so as well to elementary school. In second grade, I guess, I was the age of 4 or 5. I got this teacher. She was not really kind to me or any other child, but especially to me. Most of the kids had their own stuffed animals with them to school, like me. But for some reason, I had to hand over my ducky to her at the beginning of the day and get it back at the end of the day. So I had to survive a whole day without my ducky, which means I had no security at all at a certain point at elementary school. This caused that I went even more to the background and became very insecure because I lost my security at school. I had nothing to fall back on again. So before I walked around before the exercise started to see what I had to do, I didn't dare to do that anymore. So I just sat silently at my chair doing actually nothing at all. Um, and of course, I went further to the background, even more. Um, and I just didn't know how to act anymore. I just didn't know who I was, what I should do. And I just became more invincible to my teacher and my classmates. For some reason, my teacher became very angry with me, maybe because I wasn't doing stuff and was afraid to do anything at all. Um, it sounds quite logical to me actually right now, but it isn't because she took my safety blanket for me, or my stuffed animal actually. Um, and halfway that school year, I got another school teacher, and she allowed me to keep my ducky with me during the day, like any other child at school, in my class actually. And I opened up again. I started feeling like a child again, and I dared to do stuff, even without walking around in the class and seeing what my other classmates were doing. So I was sort of myself again, not totally, but it was looking like something. I was a child. But after a few months, my other teacher came back, and my ducky disappeared again in her drawer to the end of the day. Sometimes we forgot about my ducky at the end of the day, so I went home. I realized I forgot my ducky, and I had to go back to school looking for the teacher to find my animal and take it home with me. Otherwise, I couldn't sleep or couldn't do anything. Even after this, even after the good teacher and the return of the bad teacher, I still stayed very much invisible and at the background. Because I was just already too much damaged, both what happened at home and at school, because of the lack of security I had. From class 3, it went totally wrong. I was about 5 or 6 years old by then, and it was the time of St. Nicholas. You might have heard about it. It's now with the whole discussion about Zwarte Piet, Black Pete. I will put a picture right here if it works out for me, if I find out how to do it. Otherwise, you need to look it up on the internet. And St. Nicholas was a wonderful time for me as well. I mean, like, we got presents, there was like candy and everything like that. It was so much fun for kids back then. But in the same period, my classmates started to notice something. I have a different skin tone. I am brown or black. differs how you want to mention it. I don't care. Uh, but I was very similar to Black Pete, Swart Pete. So they started to call me names, like, "Hey, you look like Swart Pete. That's very funny." Day in and day out. In the beginning, it might be funny, but after 2 or 3 times, it is quite annoying, especially when you're 5 or 6 years old, because you don't know what actually is happening. Um, and there was another thing they noticed. I'm used to be very, very skinny. Um, so especially when we had physical education at school and we had to change clothes, they could see how skinny I was, and they started to pick on me point as well. Like, don't blow away, don't break, and all that kind of remarks. Um, and I actually was never the type with a very good hand-eye coordination, so catching a ball or throwing a ball or even standing straight up was a problem back then. It's still a problem for me right now. Um, so that was quite difficult actually. So as I said before, my hand-eye coordination wasn't that good, so catching the ball was difficult, and this resulted in, of course, funny remarks from my classmates, to kicks in my back, uh, of classmates hitting me or kicking me, or throwing balls extra hard at my face or at my body somewhere else. Um, so that happened a lot during the physical classes, as well after physical education in the dressing rooms. I It just didn't stop there. They continued their bullying, and it got even worse since there was no teacher present in the dressing rooms, of course. So the physical violence became worse in the dressing rooms. They locked me up at the bathroom. They put this bench before the door of the bathroom, so I couldn't get out, and I was locked up there uh, till I somehow freed myself after pushing really hard at the door. And I was stuck there for like 20 minutes. The dressing room was already empty. It wasn't that strong, so it took me a while to get myself free there. So that's one of the many things that happened a lot in the dressing rooms. Um, but even after school, they waited for me to kick me and hit me and physically abuse me and call me all kinds of names. And remember, we were like in the age between 5 and 9 or 10. They waited for me in the bike shed. They dismantled my bike, so I couldn't cycle to home. I became a regular at the bike mechanic, so he started to recognize me. My tires were always flat. My saddle was broken, that kind of stuff, or there were scratches on my bike, that kind of stuff. And it went also far, like in breaks, when the teacher wasn't watching, they hit me as well. So it went this far that when I was 7 years old, I started to think about suicidal. I became suicidal, and I just came to the conclusion by that age that I wasn't good enough for anyone or any. Yeah, I was just good enough for anybody. I just was a bothering piece of shit, actually, and because that was what people told me, I was nothing, I was nobody, and I should be dead, actually. That's what they told me in elementary school. So I was starting to believe them, what they told me, and I was seriously thinking about taking my own life, and I actually attempted many, many suicide attempts, and I tried it many times. Fortunately, only 3. Um, in almost 3 attempts, I almost succeeded. I almost succeeded because I'm still here, so I didn't succeed at all. Um, but after my last attempts, I was like, you can't even do this, you fucking loser. Um, so they're right, you're nothing, you're useless. Um, and so I had to make a choice to to just keep going, and I will die eventually. And maybe somebody will kill me or something like that. That was my hope at the end. Um, and this thought actually kept me from being suicidal and stopped me from uh, doing suicidal things. In sixth class, I told my mom what was happening and about my suicide attempt, and she immediately decided to transfer me to another school, a school where my sister was working as a teacher as well. So she knew it was a good school. Um, and I started at that school, and it was so different. I came in like a warm bath. Like, people were nice to me, and they called me by my real name, and they actually were nice to me. I mean, like, I haven't experienced that in like 10 years before I switched to that school. So I started to make friends there, and I felt like some sort of kid again. I was still too damaged from everything that happened to me in elementary school and back at home. So I wasn't what you called an enthusiastic or happy child, but I was some sort of child again. I was still very in the background. I was silent. I was calm, and I just didn't like to be around people, especially not to be around people in groups, because it was too scary for me. Because I was attacked a lot by groups before in elementary school. Of course, I was at some point I was almost bullied by the whole school, and yeah, that's just not okay. Just not okay. It's an understatement. And once I transferred to this school, to this new school where I had fun, I actually thought things are going to be better, and I'm gonna start to live my life. But that wasn't true. Um, I lived in a neighborhood where all the kids from my previous school lived. Um, and they of course knew where I lived, so they came to my home and built me on my front door. They followed me to my school, followed me home, called me names and called me everything, so I wasn't safe anymore on the streets as well. I wasn't safe at home, I wasn't safe at the streets, and I wasn't safe at school actually. So I had no place to be safe anymore. And it's just such a horrible way to grow up actually, in that way, having no security at all. But fortunately, I had this second school where I was some sort of happy, I guess. So I went there till my last year in Dutch. It's the eighth class, and after that you go to secondary school. Um, so I hoped actually when I went to secondary school I could start fresh and start new. I chose a school which was a little further than the normal secondary schools in my neighborhood, so I was quite sure that nobody from my elementary schools, nor the first one nor the second one, was going to that school. Um, so I can start over and fresh as a new person. Um, After elementary school, I received the advice for preparatory secondary vocational program, which is in Dutch MAVO. So that's not the lowest, it's like the third lowest level of education in the Netherlands. And it's fine for people who do it. I really respect those people because it's still quite difficult. Or it can be difficult. I experienced it as quite easy actually. But there were other classmates who had a really hard time passing their classes, and that's fine. Um, but I didn't do much, and I passed with flying colors. And my main goal was transferring to HAVO, to Senior General Secondary Education, at the end of the first school year. And without too much effort, I finished my first year and I was transferred to Senior General Secondary Education, HAVO, uh, which was awesome because it was for me a signal that I was worth something and I could be something actually, and I was smart enough to do a level more difficult than MAFO. Um, Content wise, the first class wasn't that difficult at all. However, that got soon past me because my classmates were horrible as well. It was like elementary school all over again. The same bullying with new bullies. I just didn't know what I was doing wrong again. Maybe it was because I was too silent or too much at the background, I don't know. But for some reason, they always found me. With the smallest inconvenience, I can fall back in my old patterns, so go much further back to the background and stay there. Um, and that happened in middle school as well with me because the kids weren't nice at all to me. Um, yeah, where do I start? Um, as you might notice, it's still difficult for me to talk about it. I have processed it and I give it a place, but it's still difficult for me to talk about it. But I want to do this to help people going through this and give them hope. It will be better. Let's start with physical education. At my high school, we had a choice to wear short pants and long pants, short shorts or long shorts like those. How do you call it in English? Um, Sweatpants, and um, and I really loved wearing short shorts, and I actually didn't want to wear anything else but shorts and a t-shirt all my life and all day long. And in the first week of my first year of middle school, we had this game between all the first year classes, tug of war, and unfortunately, soon enough, I received many comments about my weight. This one classmate made this remark about my legs. They're very thin. They used to be very thin, and she said, "Watch out that they don't break, or that you don't break." And for some reason, it isn't the most horrible remark I ever got about my weight, about my body, or at all. But for some reason, it left an enormous scar on me. Actually, it resulted that I didn't wear short shorts while working out or doing something active in like 10 years. I'm wearing short shorts again since a couple of weeks again. So the impact of that one silly comment was enough to break again. So, well, no, it wasn't 10 years, it was 11 years actually. So even with 30 degrees Celsius outside, I was wearing my sweatpants and running around. So just think about it, what you say to people while making remarks about someone's appearance. Please consider that. And of course, besides the skinny leg remark, a lot of other remarks were dumped on me. Sometimes physical violence was, well, not sometimes, physical violence became the standard actually. And it was actually a surprise for me. It was like, oh, here we go again. Okay, let's do this. And I was just waiting for threats whispered in my ear during math class or something like that. Or be waited after school, or be followed home, or followed into the woods where I was cycling through home to be abused again. So this was my first year in middle school. After that year, I went to HAVO, so a level higher, and I became part of a much better class. The people were so much more social and kinder, and that was such a relief for me to be able to get social contacts with people who actually like me, or at least did like they like me. Um, so that was pretty good for me, and actually that was the point I started to grow for myself. I wasn't able to start real friendships and trust people for real, but I was trying to. I started to get some friends and be social with people, and that helped a lot to grow and made me to the person who I am today. Of course, all the events that happened before in elementary school and in my first year of middle school, of course, it had a lot of impact, but this as well. So now you have a little overview of how I survived my school period on especially elementary and middle school. And now I would like to continue on my personal life, how I grew up, because this was in the same time span of my school period with all the abuse, bullying, and all that kind of stuff. I actually grew up in a pretty difficult situation at home. I grew up with an alcoholic parent. I refer to this parent as they or this parent because it doesn't matter who it was. It was a singular parent, so just one parent and not both of them, just one. Um, and I will just continue on this parent. This parent, I knew this person as a very quiet and very calm person when they was sober, and except for the moments there was alcohol around, and it was a lot. It started way before I was born, I guess. I never knew this parent without alcohol, actually. Um, what my point is, I when this parent had alcohol around themselves, they had two possible. There were two possible situations. This parent could talk your ears off about the most useless stuff you can imagine, and really didn't care about. Or this parent was very aggressive and could fight with you for no reason at all for the most smallest things with you or anyone else in the family. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I got home from school or when I was at home on the weekends or anything like that. It wasn't safe, actually. I actually can't remember this parent being active while raising me. So I really miss that part in my life of this absence of this parent in my life. Um, and my other parent raised my sisters and me all by themselves. Um, and I respect that a lot because how they did it is admirable. It really is because this parent made me to the person who I am today, who is speaking to you right now. And um, the home situation was caused my insecurity to be even worse. I mean, like I had no stability at home. I had no stability at school. So I didn't know what to do. I was uncertain at all times for my life, actually. I was abused at school. I was abused at home, mostly verbally, of course, um, and at school. And it's quite difficult to deal with that as a little child while growing up because you don't know what's normal. For you, it's normal to be unsafe and to be insecure. And I, for a long time, I thought it was very normal how I grew up with all the abuse around me and the unsafety around me. At the age of 22, I found out it isn't normal. It took me a really long time to find that out. Um, so that was actually quite difficult to grow up like this and be uncertain of my home situation. Um, but there was a big turning point at the age of 21 This was my second year of college. On a Saturday night, I had another fight with this abusive parent, and the consequence, I had to leave the house immediately because I wasn't safe anymore. If my other parent, the let's call this parent the good parent, wasn't at home, it would end up in a physical fight, and I might have ended up in the hospital. I wasn't safe anymore for my own feeling. So that night, I decided to pack my stuff and leave the house. Um, Not that I didn't come home anymore. That was not true. I went home, but I at night I sneak. Uh, I went out and I slept on the bench outside in the park or in my car at an abandoned parking spot or something like that, just to be sure that I was safe for the night. I was safer at the streets at night than I was safer at home, for my own feeling. So I escaped my home. Um, so I decided to be at home at tactical moments, for example, during breakfast or during dinner, when my parents were both at home and expected me to be at home as well. So they didn't suspect me to be outside or not at home anymore. Um, for the rest of the day, I was outside. I was at school. I was at work. I worked a lot at a certain point. I had work weeks of more than 72 hours a week just not to be at home anymore. Just to be safe because I could trust my colleagues, I could trust my friends. Um, so at that age, I wasn't at home anymore. I didn't go partying like a normal student or I don't know, that kind of stuff. So I slept in my car for a really long period near the water, fighting off junkies because that was a lot easier than fighting off this parent. That kind of stuff. I sometimes still walk past the places I slept, and now I'm thinking like, how could I manage it? How did I survive? Because at the age of 21, I became suicidal again. Um, I was doing my internship in Amsterdam, and I remember myself standing at the train station where the trains were rushing by at really great speeds. And I thought, what if I jumped? It would be all over. So sometimes I uh, stood at the end of the sidewalk where the trains were rushing by, and I prepared myself to jump when the train was coming. And one time, this person came to me and spoke to me like, "What are you doing? Is everything alright?" and all that kind of stuff. And we had a really long talk that afternoon, and it actually helped me to continue, actually, and not to jump in front of the train that night. So that was actually quite weird because I'm thinking right now about it, and it's only 2 years ago. Quite difficult. Of course, all this what happened had a lot of effects on me. I got depressed. I got a lack of self security, self confidence, all that kind of stuff. If I just break it down in different particles, like I start with elementary school, um, the effects elementary school had on me was a lack of safety, insecurity, a lack of self confidence. I was very, very underweight as a result of the stress and burnouts I had at a really early age and the depressions. I was like depressed on the age of 7. Um, my suicide thoughts, my suicide attempts, and just having the feeling that I wasn't good enough for anyone and not for myself, not for anyone at all. I was just useless. I was nothing. I was just dumb. And secondary school from 2010 2015 had a huge effect on me as well. I was still feeling insecure. I still had a lack of safety. I was stressed out. I was burnt out. I just couldn't do anything anymore because of everything that happened both at home and at school. And I was still suicidal and I was afraid of being rejected by everyone because I wasn't good enough in my thoughts. So I thought everybody thought the same about me as I did about myself. Um, I just had this mindset, I'm not good enough, I'm nobody, I can't do anything, I'm useless. and I saw my introversion as a really big, uh, as a really big uh, weakness actually, which isn't, but I thought about it that way. And if I take my whole life into consideration from 1996 to today, and today is July the 6th, 2020, and my mindset has turned from being insecure and unstable and depressed and burned out and suicidal to a person who wants to achieve his dreams and being hopeful and being positive about life and happy about himself. I um, I actually use medication at the moment. I use anti antidepressant stuff against depressions and all that kind of stuff to make me feel better. I just don't know how to pronounce it in English. I'm sorry. Um, and accepting who I am. I am gay, and I have a really strong core of really strong friends, and I'm really happy about with them. I've a great boyfriend at the moment, with whom I'm very happy with, and I feel appreciated as a person. And I just want to help people now who went through the same shit as I went through, or going through the same shit as I at this very moment, or having other stuff they're going through, which is very heavy in their own way. And I just want to help you guys, and I want to give you hope. Everything will be alright if your mindset is alright. And for the people who are already happy with themselves, I hope I can inspire you to achieve your own dreams while making these videos and telling my story and sharing my story with you. This is a pretty long video at the moment. I guess I'm around 20 minutes at the moment. Sorry for the time, but this is the most important chapter of my life, I guess. All the things that happened to me. I will make a recap video as well at some point, so you don't have to rewatch this whole video or to have to watch this whole video. Um, but I guess this is it about me. So in a recap, I am very traumatized. I've been abused. I've been raised by an alcoholic parent. I was scared. I have an anxiety disorder. I had an anxiety disorder. I was depressed. I was burned out. I was suicidal. In a very short time span of 23 years, a lot has happened to me. I survived a lot. And with all this, I hope to help and inspire you. I'm very curious what you thought about this video, and I'm very curious of your story. What have you experienced? What made you to come and watch this video? Please share it in the comments here below. And remember to subscribe to my channel and like this video. And I will come with a new shorter video, of course, of other topics in the next couple of days or weeks. Stay tuned, and I see you soon.